Hey everybody, it's Lindsay and I'm here today with another Lunchbox Notes video. This is the fourth video in the series. If you want to go back and watch the other ones, I've created a playlist of the Lunchbox Notes videos, so you can go check those all out. So for today's cards, I will be using these stamp sets and die sets from Paper Tray Ink. These are all their $5 stamp sets, and then those little dies you purchase separately. They are all connected, they're not separate, that's what makes them so cheap, but they're about $3, maybe $5 a piece. So these are very cheap stamp sets and also dies as well, but they cut beautifully. So to start out with, I'm just going to do some die cutting first. I'm just laying all of my dies on a piece of white cardstock and I'm just going to start cutting. I'm only running these through once because I'll only be making one set of note cards here. However, you can run these through as many times as you like to go ahead and fill up your cards. You can see though, they come out great. I mean, these cut really nice and cleanly. And you'll see in a moment they also fit the stamps perfectly as well. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut these next two dies out. These are the smaller ones. And I'm just going to go ahead and run these through my die cut machine the same as I did the last ones. Now because these are all connected, they're not going to work for really like die cutting techniques. However, these are great for really cheap little cards for kids that you know are just going to get tossed, ripped up, thrown away, whatever. These work great. So now I'm going to go ahead and start stamping on all my die cuts. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I'll be using alcohol markers to color them in. Use whatever black ink corresponds with your coloring medium. But on this card, I'm also going to stamp directly on the card. You can see I'm starting out with 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 inch little white top folding note card. I've made these all myself. And I've just cut strips of paper, folded them in half, made the crease nice and sharp with my bone folder, and I have my little lunchbox note ready to go. So with this card, I'm going to go ahead and stamp this little fire coming out of this rocket ship at the end of it. So I just laid that rocket ship over top to kind of get an idea of where I wanted that fire, stamped it down, and now that one's ready to go and be colored. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the plain card. Now there's two plains in the stamp set. One you can color in, one you could just stamp with colored ink. That would be really great as well. But I'm going to stamp in the one that I want to color. So I'll go ahead and stamp this down. You can see it lines up perfectly and you can see straight through these clear stamps. So it's a piece of cake really to line these up. I'll go ahead and also stamp this little banner right on the banner die cut. And then they have all of these great sentiments in this stamp set that curve and follow along the little curve of the banner. So I'll go ahead and stamp this "Hey Buddy" little sentiment right in there as well. And you can see at the top of the screen there, I am keeping all of these nice and organized so I know which card goes with which die cut set. And you'll see why in a moment. Now for this third card, I'm going to stamp two of the little cars here. I'm going to stamp this little bus image. And I'm also going to go ahead and stamp the truck. And while I am doing all of my stamping, and all of these cards, since I'm using so many stamp sets, you really want to keep your workspace clean as you go along. So just wipe your stamp off and put it away as you move along. It really helps in the long run to keep everything nice and clean and organized so you don't get messed up. Now I will also be stamping a sentiment on this little card as well, and it just says "beep beep," and I'm stamping it is what will be right above the little cars there. I'll go ahead and set that one off to the side along with the card base so I know it all goes together. And then I'm moving on to this little frog stamp. Now this one has all of these little toes at the bottom, so it is a little bit trickier to get lined up and stamped down, but it's not impossible. So I just went ahead and stamped him down. And if these do get a little off center, that's okay. These are just little lunchbox notes. Again, they're going to be tossed at the end of the day, so nothing to worry about. I also stamped that little lily pad as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and sit those on their note card. So last week for my alcohol markers, I kept everything very simple. This week, I wanted to go the complete opposite way and really take these cards over the top. I'm going to be using my alcohol markers to do all of the coloring today. Use whatever method you find works best for you or you feel the most comfortable with. This is what I'm doing today. So I'm just going to go ahead and color in both of these little car images. And I went outside the lines just a little bit on this die cut, but that's okay. A white gel pen covers up that ink and you won't even know that I went outside the lines. Now I am taking these backgrounds pretty far on these little cards, maybe a little bit too far. But you do not have to do this. I just had an afternoon to myself, which is rare. So I went to town on these cards, but I wanted to show you how you could kind of take these cards up a notch if you're into this sort of thing. So I started out with a little road that I created, and I just made a black strip across the bottom of the card. I'm also going to take a couple different green markers and just do very small flicks upwards, and this is going to create a nice little grassy border. I'm also taking a darker one, and I am just doing a few little flicks here and there of that for some shading, and then I'll blend that all out with my lightest shade of green. Now for the sky, I'm just taking my blue and flicking it upwards from the grass on up, and that creates my sky background. I can remove that masking tape that was masking off my little road and my other side of the card, and with my white gel pen, I'll just create the little stripes down the center of the road. Now for my little truck, it's going to be in the background, so I am putting double-sided adhesive on it, flat double-sided adhesive, and then on my bus I will put some foam tape to pop him up a little bit because he'll be in front. I'll go ahead and remove the backing paper on the adhesive on the truck, and I will just place it right down on the opposite side of the road. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the little bus on what would be the right side of the road, I guess. I don't know. My directions are mixed up looking at the video. But I put that card together and that card's finished. It's ready to go. Now for this next card, it's my little rocket ship card, and I'm first starting out coloring in that little fire that's going to come out the back of the rocket. And I'm just using some reds and yellows and oranges to give it some shading and some nice depth. You can also see that I am masking off the back of my card on each one of these and taping it down to hardboard for a nice coloring surface. And that just really helps me get a smooth color on these cards. You can see I have a cutting mat behind me, and it has little grooves in it, and that does show through on some of my coloring. I colored in my rocket with greens, grays, and oranges, nothing special, and absolutely no shading on those. And for the background on this, I'm going to go ahead and put a little moon. So I'm creating a little sphere, half sphere, quarter sphere, whatever, with my gray marker, very light gray, and then I'm coming in with my darker gray. And I wasn't happy with it just at the very top, so you can see I'll come back in and just fill in the entire sphere with the darker gray. Now what this is going to allow me to do, because I have this really dark gray on there, I can now take my lighter gray, and in the end I will be able to use that lighter gray to push away my color. I'll start out with some black dots here, and I'm just doing random dots, half dots, to make it look like the holes in the moon. And then I'll kind of blend those out just a bit with that darker gray. And then I can come in with that light gray and just make little dots with that, and that's going to push that dark gray away from it and really create some lighter dots, which is great for a moon effect. So on the background for the sky, I'm just going to do some really dark blues. So I'm starting out with this almost ultramarine blue, I believe is what it's called, and it's really a royal blue. So I'll go ahead and just put a nice coat of it down, and I'm not really taking time to make sure this is all even. I'm leaving it very streaky because a sky is streaky. So I'll go ahead and bring in a darker blue and go ahead and put this down as well. And then I will just take the lighter blue and go ahead and blend that out and add some more intense blue to that sky. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the rocket. I've attached some foam tape to the back of it, and then I will just stick that down to where it looks as if the fire is coming out of the end of it. Now to really pull this whole card together, I'm going to add some white dots to the background to make it look as if there are stars in the sky, and that just really helps pull this whole thing together and make it look more realistic. And all it takes is your white gel pen. Now for my next card, I'm going to go ahead and do the frog card, and I'm starting out coloring in this lily pad. I used 2 different greens on it, and then for my frog, I'm also using 2 different greens, but they're different from the ones I used on the lily pad to make him stand out from it, because he will end up sitting on it. I'm adding some shading here. I am not great at knowing where the shading will go, but I try. So I went ahead and added shading, and then I'll go ahead and blend that out with the lighter green that I started with. Now for this background, I'm first starting out with the same blues that I used on the sky on my previous card. And I am just going to town on the bottom quarter of this little note card here. Again, it's water. It doesn't have to be really smooth. It can be streaky, and that's okay. Now for the sky on this card, I am using the same technique that I used on the first one, and I am just flicking my light blue marker straight upwards to create a sky. Now I wanted to create some very tall blades of grass and some reeds as well, so I am just using different colors of greens and browns and really going to town here and just making very large flicking motions to the left, to the right, straight up to really create a nice array of grasses in the background. To go ahead and put this card together, I'm just going to go ahead and put some double-sided adhesive on that little lily pad that the frog will sit on, and I'll place it right in the center of the water. I'll go ahead and pop that little frog up with some foam tape and put him right on top of that lily pad. Now this last card is super simple for the coloring. I'm just going to go ahead and color in the little airplane with some oranges and some greens and grays. And I kept it pretty much the same as my little rocket ship colors. I tried to keep all of my markers out and just continue to use them. And then I thought about trying to do some clouds, and I gave up on that idea, and I just colored the entire background of this little note card with the blue, light blue alcohol marker. And I'm not really going to worry a whole lot about streaking because skies are streaky in real life. I will do a few layers here though, just to clean it up a little bit. Now to put this card together, I went ahead and put my little airplane and also the banner on with some foam tape. Whenever you die cut this little banner, it does create a hole in it. So I went ahead and put some twine through that hole. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue it underneath the little butt of the airplane, I guess it is. And then I will also use some glossy accents to kind of hold that little, I guess it would be the little rope in place. I'll go ahead and trim off this little end here that's hanging off. And then I'll just use some little squirts of glossy accents to hold that little rope in place so it looks like it's flying behind the plane. And you can see it just takes a few little squirts of that and just hold it in place for a few seconds. And then you can lift your finger up and it should stay nice and tight on that card. I'll also go ahead and glue down the little end so it stays as well. Now for the inside of these cards, all these little stamp sets come with little inspirational messages in them. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp each coordinating little message inside the cards. For my rocket ship, I'm going to stamp "You're out of this world." For my little frog card, it will say "Leap for the sky, you can do it." And again, I am just stamping these all towards the top of the note card so I have room underneath to write a little note and sign my name. For this one, it says "Hey buddy," or "beep beep" on the outside, and then "Hey buddy" on the inside. And then this one says "Hey buddy, well done" on the inside. And that will finish off the cards for today. I know these cards were a little bit over the top today, but you could really simplify these down. And I had fun making them, and I hope you guys had fun watching the video as well. As always, I will leave you with a close-up and just a few pictures. For more information and the supply list, you can head to my blog, craftingwhilecaffeinated.wordpress.com. The link is in the description box below, as well as the I in the top right hand corner. That will get you there too. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and happy crafting!